this practice is going to be a little bit special. We don't want you to build anything or write a lot of code. What we want you is just to practice HTTP requests using the HTTP bin service that we saw in the HTTP lecture that you have before this project. All right, so that thing that I was doing with my notebook, sending requests to HTTP bin, well, you will have to do something similar here. So how you're gonna get started, in the same way that you start any project, I will clone this URL into my own client and workspace. I'm gonna give it HTTP practice name, for example, and I'm gonna select the Python template. I've actually already done that, so we don't have to wait for it to be created. But after you're done, you will be prompted with basically this thing. The first thing that I'm gonna do, as usual, I'm gonna create a virtual environment. I'm gonna create a virtual environment using Python 3. So /user bin /Python 3, right? -p is the parameter, the option that I'm gonna pass to mk virtualenv. And I forgot the name, so I'm gonna do HTTP practice -p, and now we're gonna pass the Python 3 executable. So we're done. I will pip install my requirements.txt. In this case, it's gonna install PyTest and also the requests library. And let me show you what you need to do here. So I'm gonna open HTTP requests and also tests, right? And I'm gonna increase the size here. I think it's better to see it in GitHub. We could also open it here, but I think it's gonna look a little bit better here. So two things. First, HTTP requests.py. This is what you need to write, all right? You need to complete these things. A few of them are already completed, right? So the first one, for example, is already done, so you can just practice and see how it works. And these are the tests that we are giving you, right? The ones that you have to make pass. So the idea is that for each one of these functions, you will solve them and you will return the response that you got from the requests library. So in this case, what I'm going to do, let's read the first test. I'm invoking our function. Again, it's already done. And I'm expecting that function to return a response. And I'm expecting that the response has a status code equals to 200, that the method that you sent as the request was a get one, that the URL was the one we were expecting, and we're expecting a few other things. So remember that response.json had pretty much these right here. It had these output. So with this output, we're actually expecting that output in our response, right? We're expecting that args is present in that response. We're expecting that args is empty. We're expecting headers present in that response, etc. So again, this is already done. The first one is already done. So if I do pytest tests.py and I include -k and I do test1, for example, it's the first one, this should already pass. There you go. All passed. So this response met all these requirements right here. So now it's where you start your work. You need to, in this case, perform a get request with parameters. All right. So this is the name of the function, and the requirements is that you are sending some parameters to the URL. Right. So in this case, you can pass any parameters that you want, and actually I could try to make that thing pass. So in this case, I'm gonna do something like response. It's gonna be requests.get URL, and params I'm gonna send, I don't know, language equals Python. I'm gonna return this response. This is the idea of this practice. So you've successfully made a request, you get a response back. This is what we want to see, and we want to make sure that you send everything correctly. So let's see if the second test works. There you go. The second test worked again. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm just doing -k test2, right? So each one of these tests has a number, so I can just do test2 to run the second one. So in this case, the response that it got, this is the function that I have just coded. The response that it got had a 200 status code. I use the get method, right? I use the get method. The request that I'm sending is basically starting with these parameters because it needs parameters, and also it's expecting that the arguments have been returned and that those arguments are not empty. So let me actually do something here and print. We don't usually print in tests, right? But just for you to see it, I'm gonna do the same thing. When you print, you need to pass the -s here, and here you're gonna see this is the response that I actually received. I'm gonna do from pretty print, import pretty print. Oh, print. There you go. I'm gonna use this other function, pretty print, and there you go. These right here is the response that I return. So you see that it has my arguments, and that's why what this test is actually doing. So the other ones, right? Test 3, perform a post request. In this case, you have a little bit of information here. Perform a post request to the given URL, right? Sending these data, right? And return the response. So here we want you to send the data using post, and that's what this test is going to be doing. The same thing is going to be with a put request, with a patch request, and also with delete. All right. And finally, we're going to ask you to practice some redirection, right? We will ask you to perform a redirect request. So make a request to redirect, right? And you will receive a location header. You will need to extract the header and return that location. So you need to just return the location. Remember that was a special parameter that was used by requests, so it would not follow the redirects and give you the 3.0 something, the status code by itself. We did it in the HTTP practice in case you don't remember it. So that's simple. There are just how many? 7 tests, 6, 5, 4, and 3. They're pretty much the same thing. Post, put, patch, delete, all of them are pretty similar. You just need to use another method and return the response that you have. So best of luck and get it started. It's really important to understand HTTP in detail.